Welcome to the Deep Dive, your shortcut to being well-informed, packed with, well, surprising facts and hopefully just enough humor to keep you hooked. Today, we're not just climbing, we're scaling the heights of some pretty cool sports science. Rock climbing has just exploded, hasn't it? It's even an Olympic sport now, really pushing human limit strength, flexibility, balance, the whole lot. And look, we all know warm-ups are essential, right, for pretty much any physical activity. But what if we could go beyond just, getting ready? What if we could really optimize our warm-ups to unlock peak climbing performance while actively preventing those injuries climbers know all too well? That's basically our mission in this deep dive. We're sifting through the latest science on warming up for rock climbing, and it's straight from a brand new study. Our goal: to pull out the practical, actionable stuff, the knowledge nuggets that can directly help your training, whether you're like a seasoned pro hitting the crag or just finding your feet in the bouldering gym. Okay, so the research we're diving into today is titled Comparing the Effectiveness of 10-Minute Dynamic Stretching, Vibration Rolling, and Climbing-Specific Warm-Ups on Exercise Performances in Rock Climbers. It's by Hsueh-Ping, Pei-Shan, Chia-Lun, and Chang, and it was published just this year, 2025, in the Journal of Sports Science and Medicine, Volume 24, pages 84-92. For those keen on the full details, the DOI is https://doi.org 10b52082 JSSM.2 and 025.84.
Yeah, and this study, it really couldn't have come at a better time. The context they gave around climbing injuries is quite stark, actually. Rock climbing, particularly indoor bouldering, it puts these immense, very specific demands on your upper limbs. You see a lot of acute tendon strains, tendinitis sprains. In fact, the authors point out that over half of all climbing injuries actually happen in indoor bouldering. So just underlines why effective warm-ups aren't just, a nice to have. They're absolutely critical for prepping the body and, importantly, preventing injuries.
Wow, over half. Okay, so the stakes are pretty high then. The article really hammers home that warming up isn't optional. It's like non-negotiable for improving range of motion, performance, and injury prevention. They mention elite climbers are known for superior functional flexibility, especially shoulder external rotation, which, yeah, any climber knows that's vital for moving efficiently on the wall.
Exactly. And the study does a really good job laying out the usual suspects for warm-ups, but also highlights this gap in the research they wanted to fill. Let's quickly touch on the main methods they looked at. First, there's dynamic warm-up, or DW. Often involves dynamic stretching, so gradual, sport-specific movements. They increase muscle temp, improve nerve signals, reduce stiffness, that kind of thing. General research shows it helps flexibility, strength, agility, sure, but for rock climbers specifically, especially the upper body, it's been a bit inconclusive.
Right.
Then you've got foam rolling, FR, pretty common. Benefits there are more about making soft tissues more compliant, more pliable, and boosting blood flow. Studies generally show it improves range of motion, yeah.
Okay.
And then there's vibration rolling, VR. This is where it gets a bit more high-tech. It combines foam rolling with mechanical vibration, often at a specific frequency. I think it was 33 hertz in this study.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this added vibration, it can actually increase motor unit recruitment, basically waking up more muscle fibers. So VR kind of merges the benefits of regular rolling with these vibration effects.
Right.
Better tissue compliance, circulation, less fatigue, maybe even higher pain tolerance.
Interesting.
But here's the kicker. Most of the previous research, it focused mainly on lower limbs. The impact on upper limb warm-ups, specifically for climbers, that was largely unexplored territory. Some earlier studies even suggested other warm-up types had minimal effect on climbing performance or finger strength, which, is everything in climbing.
Right, finger strength is huge. So these researchers really set out to answer a very specific, very relevant question for climbers by comparing these three distinct 10-minute methods. Sounds needed.
Absolutely. And their study design was, well, really smart. A randomized, counterbalanced crossover study.
Okay, break that down for us.
Right, so in simple terms, it means every single climber in the study tried all three warm-up methods, but they did them in a random order. This is brilliant because it means you compare each climber against themselves doing different warm-ups. It gets rid of a lot of the noise from individual differences and makes the findings much more reliable. It's a really robust approach.
I see. So everyone acts as their own control group, basically.
Exactly. It strengthens the results significantly. They had 22 recreational climbers, 11 men, 11 women aged 20 to 50. The criteria were at least 6 months of indoor bouldering experience and climbing at least twice a week. And importantly, no recent injuries, musculoskeletal issues, or anything like cardiopulmonary problems in the last 6 months. They needed a healthy baseline. They also had proper washout periods between testing sessions, avoiding hard exercise.
Got it. Clean slate for each test.
Precisely. Now, those warm-up protocols, each one was 10 minutes long, and crucially, supervised by a licensed physical therapist. So the dynamic warm-up, DW, they used a TheraBand for 8 specific upper limb movements. Think shoulder flexion, extension, rotations, plus elbow, wrist, and finger stuff. Done on both sides, nice and controlled with a metronome.
Okay, pretty standard dynamic stuff.
Yep. Then vibration rolling, VR. They used a specific roller, the trigger point grid vibe, at that 33 hertz frequency. Participants used their body weight to massage key upper body muscles, 6 different movements per side. Again, synchronized to a metronome for consistent timing.
Right, using the vibration tech.
And finally, the climbing-specific warm-up, CW. This was done, as you'd expect, at an actual indoor bouldering gym. It had 3 parts. First, basically traversing an incline wall for a minute, repeated 3 times. Second, hanging from a 2.5 centimeter finger bar, like a hangboard edge, 10-second hold, repeated 3 times.
Okay, that sounds familiar.
And third, actually climbing specific easier routes, like a VB and a V0, doing each route 3 times with short rests.
So really mimicking what a climber might actually do to warm up.
Exactly. Very practical. And after each of these warm-ups, they measured performance. They looked at flexibility, measured range of motion ROM for shoulder flexion, external rotation, internal rotation, and overall overhead reach using a goniometer.
Standard flexibility tests.
Yep. Maximal muscle strength. Using a handheld dynamometer, they tested shoulder extensors, external rotators, elbow flexors, and super important finger flexors.
Ah, good. They measured finger strength directly.
Absolutely crucial. And lastly, dynamic stability. They used the upper quarter Y balance test, the UQYBT. It's a well-regarded test for upper limb stability.
Okay, wow. So a really comprehensive setup. They looked at flexibility, strength, including fingers, and stability. From your perspective reading this, what parts of that methodology really stand out as being particularly strong or insightful?
Well, 2 things jump out for me. First, that climbing-specific warm-up, it adds a layer of ecological validity. It reflects what people actually do. But second, and probably more important scientifically, is that randomized counterbalanced crossover design we talked about.
Right.
That really is powerful. Having every participant experience every condition just minimizes the impact of individual differences and boosts confidence in the results. It's a solid foundation.
Yeah, that crossover design really does feel like it makes the comparison much cleaner, doesn't it?
Right.
Builds a strong case.
It certainly does.
Okay.
So let's get to the findings, the results, because this is where it gets really interesting. What's fascinating is that all 3 warm-ups, DW, VR, and CW, they all produced significant improvements across several areas. They all boosted range of motion in the shoulder, specifically flexion, internal rotation, external rotation, and that overhead flexibility measure.
Okay, so all helped with shoulder mobility.
Yep. All 3 also improved dynamic stability of the upper limbs, according to the Y balance test. And they all increased maximal muscle strength for both elbow flexors, your biceps, basically, and shoulder extensors.
So general benefits across the board then.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
But then things got more specific. There were definite winners in certain categories. Vibration rolling VR was significantly more effective than both the dynamic warm-up and the climbing-specific one for improving shoulder flexibility and external rotation flexibility.
Ah, okay. So if shoulder flexibility is your main goal, VR seems like the way to go.
It really looks like it, based on this study. It was the clear standout for those specific shoulder movements. Then the climbing-specific warm-up, CW, showed superior gains in the maximal strength of the shoulder external rotators compared to the dynamic warm-up.
Which makes sense, right? Specific movements strengthening specific muscles.
Exactly. It highlights that principle of specificity in training. But, and this is a big but for climbers, none of these warm-up methods significantly improve finger flexor strength.
Wait, really? None of them? Not even the climbing-specific one with the hangboard holds?
Nope. No statistically significant increase in maximal finger flexor strength after any of the 10-minute warm-ups compared to baseline.
Wow. Okay, that is surprising and kind of a crucial point. So if the warm-up isn't directly making your fingers stronger right before you climb, what does that imply for how climbers or coaches should approach that part of preparation? Especially if finger power is like a major focus.
That's exactly the kind of practical question this study brings up. And the paper does offer some really interesting analysis on the why behind these results. For instance, VR's big win on flexibility, especially shoulders. The authors suggest it's likely down to physiology.
Yeah.
Think of the vibration potentially inhibiting the Golgi tendon organs. Those are like sensors in your tendons that tell muscles to contract or relax.
Right.
The vibration might sort of trick them, reducing muscle contraction signals and facilitating relaxation, so your muscles can stretch further temporarily. It's like a little neurological hack.
Huh, interesting mechanism.
Yeah. Now, about that finger strength enigma, why no improvement? The authors float a hypothesis related to the participants. They were recreational climbers, right, with varied skill levels. So maybe the simple routes in the warm-up weren't challenging enough for the more skilled climbers' fingers? But for the less experienced ones, maybe those same routes caused a bit of fatigue, which could mask any potential strengthening effect.
Ah, okay, so the dose might have been off, depending on the climber.
Potentially. It raises a really good question. Could different protocols work better? Maybe something involving post-activation, potentiation, PAP. That's where you do a short, intense exercise to kind of prime the muscles, making them temporarily stronger.
Right, I've heard of PP.
Could that be more effective for finger strength in a warm-up? Definitely something needing more research. And also, while all the warm-ups improve dynamic stability, that Y-balance test score, the study points out we still need more research to directly link that improved stability score to actual performance in dynamic climbing moves like dinos or Gastons.
Yeah, that makes sense about the skill levels potentially muddying the waters for finger strength. But is there also a chance that maybe these types of warm-ups just aren't designed to acutely build max finger strength in 10 minutes, even if they prepare the tissues? It feels like this study, great as it is, still has some boundaries, which actually often point towards interesting future research, don't they?
You're absolutely right. Every study has limitations, and understanding them is key. One big one is the focus on recreational climbers. The findings might not perfectly translate to elite athletes with very different training histories and physiology.
Hmm.
Also, within that recreational group, there were variations. The paper notes the men had, on average, more climbing experience than the women. Little things like that could subtly influence results.
Okay.
Another point is the vibration frequency. They used 33 hertz, which lines up with some lower limb research. But is that the optimal frequency for upper limbs? We don't really know yet. And finally, they looked at each method DW, VR, CW in isolation, which immediately suggests a future direction. What about combining protocols? Could you get even better results pairing, say, vibration rolling with climbing-specific movements? That synergy could be really powerful.
Yeah, combining them seems like a logical next step. Okay, so this deep dive has really shown us that even a fairly brief 10-minute warm-up can make a significant difference in key areas for climbing. And we've learned that while all three methods studied offer value, tailoring your approach based on your goals, flexibility versus strength can yield specific, measurable benefits.
Exactly. So to really boil it down for you listening, if your main aim is boosting shoulder flexibility, especially flexion and external rotation, vibration rolling seems to be the clear winner here. If you're looking for that edge in shoulder external rotator strength, the climbing-specific warm-up proved superior to the dynamic one. And for general improvements in upper limb strength, like elbow flexors and shoulder extensors, plus dynamic stability, well, all three methods delivered positive results.
That's really useful practical guidance. It gives climbers and coaches some concrete, science-backed options to build more targeted warm-ups, which should hopefully lead to better performance and maybe fewer injuries on the wall. So here's a thought to leave you with. Imagine the possibilities if we start combining these insights. If just 10 minutes of one specific type of warm-up can yield these distinct benefits, what could a really personalized, multimodal warm-up program, maybe blending VR with specific movements, unlock for a climber's ultimate potential and long-term resilience? It's pretty exciting to think about where this could lead. We definitely encourage you to explore this research further if you're interested. You can read the full article, just search for the title. Comparing the effectiveness of 10-minute dynamic stretching, vibration rolling, and climbing-specific warm-ups on exercise performances in rock climbers. And hey, for more deep dives into the science that impacts your life, your health, your passions, make sure you follow this channel and turn on those notifications so you don't miss our next exploration.